Hello, everyone. Hi, Anne. It's 7 o'clock. Anne, it looks like we actually have all 5 commissioners here. Am I seeing that correctly?
I am not seeing Commissioner Wood and Commissioner Bainey.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm sorry. And when I said all 5, I was just thinking that I saw 5, but I don't see Commissioner Wood. So, but we do have a quorum, correct?
You do have a quorum. So I will just read off Commissioner Marshall, Commissioner Clark, Commissioner Thompson, Commissioner Derby, and Commissioner Doyle are all present.
All right. Well, I guess we have
a quorum.
We have a quorum. The meeting's been called to order. We may get 1 or 2 more people joining us. But the first order of business is review of the agenda. Anne, are there any changes to the agenda? Anne, you're muted. I'm sorry.
I am not aware of any changes to the agenda.
Thank you. Next up, moving very rapidly, approval of minutes from December 16th. They're in the packet. I went through them, and I'm wondering if anybody has either any comments or changes or would like to make a motion for acceptance of the minutes.
Paul, I'm thinking maybe you are looking at the first packet. 2 went out on the same day. The second was an updated one, and the minutes were removed so that some edits could be done before they were brought to Planning Commission. So those minutes will actually come before you at the next meeting.
Okay, I could have sworn I opened the attachment that was your revised one, but let me...
I can send it to you again real quick if that would help.
No, I have it here, Megan. Thank you very much. I just thought I had clicked on the email that said revised, but, oh, you know what? I downloaded both copies, and so, yeah, I clicked on the wrong downloaded version. Okay, I'm good now, so we're not doing the minutes right now.
I apologize for that confusion.
And I'm just curious, is that editing anything that, I mean, we don't need to deal with right now? Were there any concerns other than something staff?
No, I think it's more formatting, that it's not in our typical, the way it's normally presented. It was a new minutes recorder.
Got it. So excuse me now while I get the correct minute or the correct packet open, although that was probably the only change, or was it?
There's also the findings that Henry's going to present are updated in the revised packet.
Okay. Well, thank you. I had the revised one open now, and hey, there's no minutes in it. Sorry about that. All right, so we can move on to number 4, which is public testimony. I don't know if Anne or Megan, I'm asking one of the 2 of you, is there anybody signed up to testify?
I do not have any one signed up.
Okay. Well, we're now 17 minutes ahead of schedule. We're going to move to commission business, number 6, which is dealing with subdivision 02-20. Henry, I think you're going to lead off with a presentation.
Yes. Thank you, Paul. I just have a brief comment. So what you have before you tonight is the revised findings and the revised conditions of approval for the subdivision that you tentatively approved back in December. In the past month, I worked with the applicant and one of the lead commenters, Ms. Teresa Bischow, to iron out those conditions and make sure all parties were in agreement. And I shared the draft findings and the conditions of approval with both parties, and they both agreed upon them. So what you have before you tonight is the final version for approval of the subdivision. You'll be looking to adopt the findings and officially approve it tonight. I'm sorry, Paul, I cannot hear you.
Sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
Okay, let's try this. My understanding is the first step for me is to close the hearing, which was extended at the end of the last meeting solely for the record and for the submittal of the final findings, but no further testimony is allowed. So if I have that correct, I will hereby close the hearing.
That's correct.
And then the next step is for the commission to consider the final findings and ask for approval of the findings. So are
Yes.
there any comments or questions or discussion on the findings themselves? I'm not seeing any. I know that I read through them and they looked correct based on what we had discussed in December. And as Henry said, the applicant and the major testifying party have agreed to them as drafted or written in their final form.
That's right.
So I will look for a motion to approve the findings.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Marissa. We have a motion and a second to approve the final findings for subdivision 0220. If no discussion, I will move right to the vote of that. All in favor of approving the findings, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Aye. I believe that's you. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. I believe that's a unanimous approval of the findings. Again, correct me if I've got this wrong, Henry, but I think the next step then is to actually have approval of the subdivision. So I would entertain a motion of the subdivision application 02-20.
Paul, I don't think that's quite necessary. You've already approved the findings, which are in support of approving the subdivision.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I
That's
think what you did, it's just fine. That's just good. Yep.
okay. No, that's fine. I was going by the notes I took 2 days ago or yesterday actually, and I probably overwrote my notes. So that means we're done with that item, Henry?
Yep. So Paul, all that I'll ask, and Megan can probably help out with this, is that you as the chair sign those findings. It's on the first page. I included that for you. And then for everyone's awareness, the subdivision is now approved and it enters that 14-day appeal period. And staff will send out the notice of decision within 5 days of Paul signing the findings for approval. And then after 14 days, the decision is final. Final. It cannot be appealed.
All right.
And that's
Thank
all I
you.
have.
Great. Okay. We'll move right on to continuing to make up time. And agenda item number 7 is goal setting for the Planning Commission for 2021. And you're going to lead us off on that?
Yes, so one of the things that we are doing this year is asking our committees and commissions to think about some goals for the coming fiscal year. These would be presented to the city council at their retreat. The purpose of that is to make sure that you as a commission are getting what you need and are getting the work done that you'd like to get done. The goals, you don't have to have a whole bunch of complicated goals. It's more about things that you feel would help you to operate better as a commission. And so we did send out an email yesterday asking you to think about a few things that might be listed as a goal for the Planning Commission. If these are items that have a budget, then that helps me to budget for them. So if you say you wanted to plan and facilitate a training session on land use in Oregon for the Planning Commission, that obviously has a budgetary piece, so I need to know that so we can budget for it. So I'm hoping that some of you have some ideas of goals that could be shared with the city council from the planning commission. And so I will ask if anybody's brave enough to, or had some chance to think of a few goals.
Actually, Ann, you mentioned the goal that I had in mind. I mean, I picked up a few things about land use development over the years, but I think a more comprehensive study on it from an expert might be really beneficial.
So a training on land use in Oregon.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, any sort of training, it always helps us to make more informed decisions that can better steer our directions in alignment with what the citizens want. So.
Okay.
I would definitely chime in and support as a goal a planning commission training session. I think clearly land use is the main focus of that, and land use in Oregon, obviously. There's a few other things that if they can be sort of part of the training, particular public meetings law or ethics law are two things that typically I as a public employee, am aware that public volunteers often get trained on, or at least informed on, but that wouldn't have to be the main part of the training.
Okay. Would it be better for you to have like a series of trainings, like one a quarter or something like that, like prior to planning commission, or would you rather see a Saturday training or something like that? Anybody have any feedback on that?
My concern with that, just on a personal level, is all-day training courses, particularly on Saturdays, are really challenging for me as a business owner.
So more of a series of trainings.
Marissa, were you?
Yeah,
Marissa,
I was, and then my kids were watching a movie. So I would definitely want to do more of a series than just a one straight shot. So, thanks.
And for my part, I'll agree with that. I would actually prefer the series over a half or full day, especially on a weekend. And it seems like one of the things that I think came up earlier was trying to keep the commission more engaged through its monthly meetings. And that would be one way to either fill out agendas or make an agenda for months that are light on other agenda items.
Okay.
I have a question, just from the standpoint of your experience, Ann, as well as in talking with city councils. What have been, say, the planning commission's shortcomings? Where have we been lacking in some of our work, or have we been?
I honestly don't think that the planning commission has been lacking in their work. I think that there's probably been a how would I put it? Maybe just a lack in communication, that we could enhance the communication between the staff and the planning commission. Definitely, we're trying to do that. And maybe you guys don't agree with that, but I just felt like we could have a stronger communication. I think the other part that could be really important is the communication with the city council, especially as we look at really important land use decisions that are coming down the pike in Coburg. And it seems like we're getting one right after another, and there'll be more coming. We have a annexation proposal coming, but there's a zone change request with that. So that's a pretty important piece. And I think that the communication or the combined education of the Planning Commission and the council together on those items could be really beneficial to the whole community. And I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It's just that sometimes I don't know whether or not we have enough credibility with the city council. I sense that. So, or at least
I don't think that's the case. I think that there needs to be a stronger communication between the Planning Commission and the council. And I think it can go both ways.
sure.
It's a responsibility of both. And I think that's why it's so important to the mayor that he recognizes it, and that he recognizes it's as much the responsibility of the city council as it is the Planning Commission. And so that's why he's encouraging these kind of discussions of how do we operate better on a higher level. And that's the, that can be the work that you get from the staff. It can be any of those things that help you to operate better as a commission. So I don't know if strengthening the communication with the city council is a goal, or if that's important to you, or, I mean, I threw that out there, but I think that it is important, but that's up to you guys as to whether or not you
How do you
want to
think that
list
could
it.
be done?
I think it could be done by some shared work sessions when we know we have something that everybody, I mean, even if it's an education piece, that it's shared, that you're both on the same page when it comes to land use on certain subjects. It could be done, some committees do like a quarterly report to the city council on what it is they've been working on. Sometimes their chair will write just a short little report. It said, this is what we did in the last quarter. That's a communication to the council. The council gets that in their packet and they read it. Other than that, if there's not that kind of thing going on, then the council may not necessarily know everything that the Planning Commission does.
Sure.
And we just found that there was this lack of communication between the council and these committees that are working so hard. And so that's why we're encouraging, this kind of enhanced education, enhanced communication.
Okay. Thank you.
And building on that, and I guess it's training in a sense, but it also, I think, speaks to the communication issue. And as you said, that goes two ways. I was wondering whether the Planning Commission can have, maybe it's annual, I don't know, maybe it's more frequent, but have some sort of annual agenda item that tells the Planning Commission what is planned for the city in the coming year. And it might be at the start of the fiscal year, and it might be a combination of the outcome of the budget process and the city council retreat that sets the goals and priorities for the coming year. Those things that go into setting up what the city expects to be doing. And a lot of that is outside of land use, and a lot of that's outside the Planning Commission's purview. But I think having that bigger picture presented to us would be helpful.
Absolutely. So an annual update on the city council goals and priorities for the coming year. Would that? That's
probably the main part of it, and I mentioned the budget committee work because that's some of the, that addresses some of the, I guess, sure, council's priorities, but it also sets some of the other work program. It sort of sets the work program too.
Okay. I'll just put in budget committee and then kind of wordsmith that.
Yeah, I mean, it could be anything. It could be those two things. It could be, and unless you're reading a lot of other things, you may not know if, I don't know, pick an example, if the Historic Preservation Committee or the Parks Trees Committee is tackling some big topic in the coming year. If so, I think it's good for the Planning Commission to know that, and all of these things are supposed to work together. I think that's important for us all to know across committees and across responsibilities what's happening at some level.
I think there's like a communication goal that is with the city council, but also with other community committees on their work plans. So there are committee work plans coming out, and I'm wondering if there's a way that we can combine them into some kind of a document that says these are the goals of all the committees, and then everybody gets them so that you can see what the other committees are working on. I think that would be really helpful.
That sounds good to me, and I don't want to monopolize the speaking time here, but the last thing that I'm thinking along this sort of spectrum of committees is I view the Planning Commission as being in a little different place than some of the other committees. The Parks Committee, the Historic Preservation Committee, for two examples, they certainly fulfill things that the city asks them to do, but they also sometimes, I think, create their own initiatives. The Planning Commission doesn't really have that latitude. It doesn't really create its own agenda topics or its own initiatives. It deals with the quasi-judicial stuff that is brought to it.
Right. Yeah. Understood. Yeah. I think that if you have a training goal, an annual update goal to city business, and a communications goals with the city council and the other committees of the city, I think those are three very good goals. And so unless somebody has something else that they wanted to add, I can wordsmith these and send them out. And if it looks okay, unless you want to do that, Paul, but I know you're really busy right now. So, but I could put them into a form that they can go to city council once you've looked at them and reviewed them and said they're good to go. They would go into their retreat packet for February. And then we would start working on trying to figure out how we're going to fulfill like the education piece. We might be able to get, one instructor that comes 3 or 4 times a year and just touches on some different elements for you. So does that sound okay?
One thing to interject there, you mentioned that we're going to have a lot of land use things coming up in the next year or so, regarding like zone changing and annexation. If the training could kind of revolve around those particular items, so we could be at least up to speed when those things come to us.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? In other words, timely type training, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Timely for topics coming up.
Sure. Somehow you could, if we could do that, then we would have some at least knowledge, or at least we probably could become dangerous, quite frankly. But
be really educated.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you right now that we're planning a work session on February 23rd for the council and planning commission. And we were going to be sending out a save the date. And that is to just go over the annexation application, not necessarily to discuss, but to answer questions so that people understand what they're looking at. So that, while that won't be coming to planning commission, it would be going to city council. the planning commission would still be invited to participate in that so that you understand the application as well. Because Henry, correct me if I'm wrong, that's kind of the zoning would go to the planning commission and the application will go to the council.
Planning Commission will see the zone change request, but the final approval will be via City Council, via an ordinance.
Right.
Planning Commission won't necessarily see the annexation, but it'll probably be part of the application because the annexation and zone change go hand in hand together.
So the plan was to have that February 23rd work session, and then it would go to City Council and Planning Commission in March. Is that still your plan, Henry?
Yeah, I think that's where we're heading with, and yep, I think that's the timeline we're on.
Okay.
And I know you're sending out a save the date, but is the February 23rd joint work session evening, I assume, council evening?
Yeah, it would be an evening.
Are there any other comments, input for Ann to capture? I would appreciate it, Ann, if you could draft up our goals since you were taking notes and I wasn't.
Okay.
And I'll take a look at them. But if there's any, that sounds good to me, what you summarized. So if there's any other input, speak up now, please.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for that on our goal setting. And that moves us right along to city updates, which is you again.
Okay. Well, I think you got the city administrator's report in your packet. Is that correct? And so one of the things I reported a lot about was COVID, where we are on COVID. Obviously, Lane County is still in the extreme. City Hall is still closed. We're starting to bring our staff back a little bit. Everybody has private offices, so that they pretty much remain in their corners, and we don't really see much of each other, but we are getting the work done. Public meetings continue to be on Zoom. I don't know when we're going to get to change that. I hope soon, but I don't know for sure. So not much has changed on that front. It seems to be slow moving, and we're all where we are for a while. But that hasn't changed the city's projects getting done. We're getting a lot done. So the bore is completed on I-5. The easements for the water project have all been retained for going up the hill to the reservoir. And we're in design right now for hooking the water system up off Roberts Road across the I-5 when the time comes for that. It looks like it will be summer of 2021 to get water over to the other side of the freeway. We also are working on the design of the third well right now. That will be out on Stallings Lane on the property that the city purchased. And so that also will be in the summer of 2021 when the development of the well actually happens. There's a lot of pipes, main lines and stuff to be repaired throughout the city. We're trying to align those repairs with a street project that the city had funding for fixing some of our collector streets. A lot of the mainline work is on Coleman. So it may work, it may not, but we're trying to align the two projects so that while we have the streets tore up, we fix the main line. So we're not tearing things up twice. It might be that we do one before the other and there's a filled in ditch for a little bit on the side of the road until we complete it, but we're really trying to align them. We have about $850,000 to do repairs on the what would be Coleman and some of the other collector streets in the downtown area. Let's see. The planning position was posted today. It will be posted for a month. We are hiring for a planning and development director, community development director. So that person would be not just planning director, but also looking at helping with the economic development and community development as it pertains to land use. So that might be, when we're talking about how we meet the needs of our vision and our comprehensive plan, and we're making decisions regarding downtown or that will reflect on economic development, the planner would be involved in that. So we hope to get some applicants. Planners are thin out there right now, I'm being told. There's not a lot of availability, but we are hoping that we will get some interest in our position. So we'll know in a month when that closes. Cross your fingers. Although we love Henry and he's doing a great job. If we need to and we don't get the applications we want to see, we'll continue with working with LCOG and having Henry serve us. So the transportation plan update and everything that we discuss in Coburg, it seems like it ends up in transportation. That's the biggest concern, whether it be the roads, the condition of the roads, or the roads that head in and out of town. So we are starting to work on an update to our transportation plan. We're expecting a kind of a mocked up plan in about a month of the things that we need to consider. We've been talking with the region about that, especially Lane County, discussing the options that we might have for addressing the challenges to the residential UGB and how we can either expand the urban growth boundary a little bit to get a little space to do a road above or try to get a Goal 12 exception to get a road in so that we can serve the neighborhood, the residential neighborhood, with another outlet. So we are working on that. We also are discussing the east-west freight connector. I think that that's a little bit more on the county's radar than it might have been in the past. So we are addressing that. So that the work plan for that will probably be coming soon on what it will look like and how we will address that.
And a quick question.
Uh-huh.
Who are you talking with when you say you talk with the county?
Let's see, Henry, we talked with Sasha and
we talked with Sasha, Becky Taylor.
Yeah.
Well,
last time I talked with Becky Taylor, she said that there was trying to do anything with an east-west connector would be kind of so far out there in the future, it's not even worth talking about. Which
yeah, we had a discussion, and part of that was funding for some form of a feasibility study.
Yeah.
It's always like it's the funding to get the studies and the design work done. And so what we kind of decided that we would try to do is, Paul, I don't think you were part of this conversation, but possibly finish our transportation plan and then see if we could go for some MPO funding with the county and Coburg being co-applicants for at least feasibility study, as that area is within the MPC or MPO. I'm not sure what the proper is, but that, so that we could at least, and so this is the first time that Paul's heard it, but that was part of the topic of conversation on the phone, is that possibly the county and Coburg could work together to try to get some grant funding for that.
Yeah, and then on the that goal 12 exception, I know I talked with Sasha about how the city of Eugene was getting around their exception for that, I guess that Delta interchange, how they worked out with the county. I never did hear back from that, so I don't know what you've heard, but.
Well, when we've been on conversations with DLCD, Patrick Weingart has been pretty positive about that being an option.
Yeah.
So, you know, these are all things that we will consider as we move forward to update.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Those are really the big pieces. We did close on the well property, and that includes a 1 acre park that will be a heritage park, so that it's down the road. It'll probably be 2 years. We will start designing on that park sometime in the near future, but it's 2 years before the city would be doing anything with it. So it gives us plenty of time to plan. I'm happy to answer any other questions that you might have regarding any of the business of the city. Don't forget that the state of the city is on the 26th. And that we separated it this year because it was on Zoom. You should get an invitation in the mail. You should have got it in utility billing. It's also in the newsletter. But we separate them just because of length of time. By the time you do the state of the city and then conduct a council meeting, it's just a long night on Zoom. So that is why they got separated this year. So be sure and tune in if you are available that night.
Hey, Ann,
Mm-hmm.
not that I'm a glutton for punishment here, but I'm curious if the council work session on Saturday, a couple of weeks away, is open to the public or not?
The 6th, I think it's open to the public, but there isn't comment taken. You can listen in. Yeah.
That's what I was wondering, if there can be a link made available if someone like me wanted to listen in.
I believe that you can. Well, they had it's a retreat. So it is, that's a good question. There was some discussion on that at the last council meeting on whether they would allow for the public or not. So what I can do is have Sammy reach out to you.
Okay,
and see
thanks.
if she can provide a link.
And if I may, I thought I would just add one more non-city update, but it's within the city, which is that last night, the charter school board that I'm a member of did decide that kindergarten, first and second grades will return to the building part-time starting Monday in a hybrid model in the classroom. That's K1-2. K3 on Monday will return part-time. 4, 5, 6 will return a week later if everything goes well and conditions remain as they are. And then it would be 2 weeks after that, if everything has gone well, that the 7th and 8th grades would return to the building. And again, all part-time and spread out. They've turned the gymnasium into a classroom. They've brought in some portable units and done a whole lot more. But there will be school kids and drop-offs in the mornings and pickups in the afternoons. So there will be some return to normalcy there at the school.
How wonderful. I homeschooled my grandson for a week. that is, I'm handing it to the parents out there. That was a week of opening my eyes of what parents are going through right now.
So if that was it for city updates, Anne, unless there are any other closing comments or thoughts from any of the commissioners or anything else you need to say, Anne, I think we're actually done.
No, I just say thank you to everyone. And I don't have anything else.
Actually, one quick note. I was looking at the calendar since you're saying that we have that joint work session on February 16th and that the zoning would be coming to us in March. Is there any indication of will there be a planning commission meeting next month?
The work session would be on February 23rd.
Right, I'm sorry, 23rd, okay.
Okay. Henry, are you aware of anything for next month?
I have no pending applications for planning commission presently, other than the zone change annexation, but I have nothing that would need approval in February.
So it might
that's
be
not-
that, yeah, you might want to consider that you would attend the work session in lieu of your planning commission meeting for February.
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily trying to make a decision on holding a meeting or not. I was just trying to get some indication. That's really up to staff whether they need to plan a February meeting in addition to the work session. So, I'll leave that up to you guys, but I just was trying to get some indication.
Okay.
So I think we're done. Thank you, everybody. I will adjourn the meeting now. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Right.